Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Blueprint for Success. I am your host tonight. Thank you for tuning in to your Build Your Best Life platform. We have a great topic for mothers and young men this evening. My name is Jocelyn Charles, and I'm very grateful to be here with you. I am a mother, an entrepreneur, work full time. I wear many hats like many mothers do, but I also have a son and a daughter. So I know how important it is to focus on raising our sons to be productive members of society, help them stay on track, and also help them get back on track if they have wavered. My guest tonight is Dr. Shannon Davis-Wills. Thank you for joining us tonight, Dr. Shannon. How are you?
I am doing awesome. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me. I think it's so important to kind of, especially the population we're serving, like you said, just young men. It's so hard sometimes to get them back on track. But if we can give them some keys and some ideas on how to get there, to navigate, I'm more than happy to share. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Audience, before we get started, I want to ask that you please like and share this live. Send this to some mothers, send this to some young men who could use a blessing. Our topic tonight is healing from within.
Yes.
We want to have you interact and give your comments and your insight in the comment section. We love to see that interaction to know that we're making an impact. So, without further ado, we want to go ahead and get started.
Yes.
So, Dr. Shannon, I have some questions for you this evening.
I'm ready.
Okay. What does healing from within truly mean, especially for young men navigating today's challenges?
Okay. That's such an awesome and great question because I do get asked that quite a lot. But your question is specifically for young men, which presents its own set of challenges because, like you said, we always want them to be the best version of themselves. And so, healing from within, when you think about it from anyone's standpoint, really for all of us, it's really about doing the internal work, right? It's about looking in within yourself, reflecting, and saying, "Let me do the work myself within me." But not just managing your behavior, but also just understanding that our emotions, our beliefs, our experiences that's driving that behavior. And so for young men, it's important to heal within because so many times they've been taught to suppress how they feel, right? And so healing from within actually gives them permission to say, it's okay for me to feel, it's okay for me to name what I'm carrying, and it's okay, for me to express how I feel in a healthy way. And so healing from within is for young men is really just about navigating and doing the internal work and recognizing it's okay for me to express how I feel.
That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. For that leads me to ask for young men who, they sometimes don't know how to navigate that, right? How
Definitely.
to get started? How let's say a young man, they're 16 and 17, they're young men, right? We know they're still
Yeah.
like quite adults, but they feel like young men and they want to be treated and respected as such. They're beginning to make some decisions on their own, but they may not know how to navigate those feelings. So where does a young man begin to look for help? To reach out so they can get the support they need to be able to connect, identify with those feelings, and move forward.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. So when it comes to young men, there's a lot of things that's offered. So not only through counseling, for someone like me, they could reach out to a therapist like myself that can help them navigate those experiences, right? But not only just a therapist, but you could look at there's certain mentor groups that's out there. Even the team they're on, because a lot of times, right, they're a part of these different organizations and teams, and they can look to their teammates for support as well. I think the the thing for them really is about reaching out for help is they have to be in a safe space. And so for them, as an adult, just creating a safe space for them to come and share can help them with that experience. And so, like I said, not only just coming to a professional like me, but also because we cover free and safe. And
Yes.
so even if they want to come to a counselor, right, it's not because something is wrong with them. It's because maybe they're, like you said, at 16 and 17, they're trying to figure out life. They're trying to figure out where they fit in this society, right? They're navigating so many other issues too, besides just being a student and being a son. There's other societal pressures on them as well. And so coming to a therapist like me can help them navigate those emotional struggles that they may be having and just trying to figure out where they fit in this world. And sometimes having an unbiased, non judgmental person can help them with that. And so that's what I provide, a safe, non judgmental, and unbiased perspective to help them navigate whatever challenges they're facing in that moment.
Good. Thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we take care of the whole family, right? We're one
Yes.
unit, okay? So, why is inner healing so critical for mothers raising sons in this generation?
Well, I mean, that's important because, for one, we're raising boys and they become men. So you got to realize if we have unhealed boys, they grow up to be unhealed men, right? And I just heard a saying Sunday. I think I just heard a saying is that you bend the tree while it's still young, right? So bend the branch while it's still young. But what that saying is, as a boy, as a young boy, their brain is still developing. They're still growing, and so it's easier to implement certain strategies in them, right? It's easier to say, hey, it's okay to have feelings. It's okay to be angry. And these are ways that you can demonstrate that anger. I think so many times we say, you're not allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to do any of these things. And so they learn at a young age to just cut their feelings off. Well, as a young man, that doesn't work for them. And so it serves our best interest as moms, because I have two sons as well, but it serves our best interest as mom is really helping them at a young age when they're having those emotional moments, or they're having those moments where they're frustrated, and letting them know that it's okay, right? Because like I said before, like, they become men who has anger, and that anger shows up in different ways, right? Because if they don't have the words, it could show up in, disconnecting, shutting down emotionally. And so, as moms, we have the opportunity to help them at an early age to prioritize their emotional safety. And that, like I said before, that could look like, it's okay to be angry, and when you're angry, you could do this. Or you're angry, let's seek help, like I said before. Like, okay, let's, talk to a therapist and they can help you. And so it's very important to address the issue when they're young, because the last thing you want to do is have them to be men with these same unhealed traumas. And now they're trying to be in a relationship, and it's hard because they still have some things that they're dealing with from a little boy perspective.
Absolutely. And we've seen that again.
Yes.
We still see that in today's society. And it affects our culture
Yeah.
when, especially when our young men are unhealed. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
what are some signs that a young man is hurting internally, but may not know how to express it?
Okay, so that's a great question, right? Because like I said before, sometimes they don't have the words. So for them, like, they could be upset and a whole bunch of things, but for them it comes out different, right? So for them it could be like, just being irritable, withdrawn, right? Lack of motivation. Sometimes, because I have clients, right? I have emerging adults, because that's what I call them, emerging adults, because that's, they're emerging into adulthood. And so I have quite a few young men that I am counseling, right? And so the one thing, right, that, because I always ask my clients, okay, what's the one thing that happened that led you to say, I need a therapist, right? I always ask that question, right? And more often than not is always the lack of motivation. I used to love playing football. I used to love playing tennis. I used to love playing basketball, and now all of a sudden I don't. That's a sign to let you know that something is going on. You don't play a sport for 10 years and then decide, I don't want to play anymore. There's something deeper there. And so even for me, I always ask the question, and more often than not, the one thing that they most have in common is the lack of motivation to do something they've always loved to do. And sometimes not even lack of motivation, but sometimes I'm pretty sure you've experienced it too, defiance.
Yeah.
Defiance is a sign, once again, something is going wrong. But so many times we're taught to just look at the behavior and not uncover what's beneath the behavior. But those things could be definitely signs that something is going on internally that they may not have the words to express, but they're going to show up in other ways. So it's okay to look for those things. It's okay to say, you know what, I get it. You don't want to play football anymore, but walk me through what led you through that process. See, you're not questioning them. You're just trying to get understanding.
Understanding.
Yes.
Very good. I know you made reference to me as far as my situation wasn't defiance. It was the first. I saw a lack of motivation.
Yeah.
Areas that he was known to thrive in, that he enjoyed, that he was gifted in. It just things dwindled, and it happened that senior year in high school. That's
Yeah.
the changes were evident, and so that is very good. And for all the parents who are tuning in, the moms and the fathers,
Yeah.
keep an eye out on that lack of motivation.
Yeah.
Dr. Shannon is spot on. That is definitely one of the first and early signs.
Yeah, definitely. I have a couple of clients too. They say, oh, it's the senioritis. Like we're so quick to say, they're seniors and the senioritis and they don't want to do anything. That's a sign that that teenager is struggling.
Yep.
We don't, we're quick to put it on something, but the reality of it is, yeah, senioritis is real because they're transitioning from high school to college. And that could be very daunting for a lot of our young men and, young women as well, navigating that because they're thinking, oh, I'm a graduate, I'm an adult. That's a heavy burden to carry.
Yeah.
I go from my mom and dad or mom supporting me to this world that I'm not even sure about. And so, yeah, there is a lack of motivation because sometimes they don't want to go to that next level. Sometimes there's a fear of going to that next level. And so it comes out in so many different ways, like, lack of motivation, defiance, just being irritable. I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay home. I don't want to participate because that's that fear of going to the next, stage in life because sometimes we put a lot on them. Okay, once you graduate, you're going to have to do this, and that, not recognizing that we don't, you have to prepare them over time versus putting everything on them in 1 year, like preparing them over time. Like eventually they get to a point to where, hey, they can take care of themselves. And so it's not so overwhelming or daunting for them. So it is important to look at those, external signs because sometimes they're not going to have the words to tell you what's happening with them.
That's correct. I also notice just a generational gap. When I was a teenager,
Yeah.
16, 17, 18, couldn't wait to be an adult.
Yes.
what, what I know about that now is a different story. But, so it was an exciting thing to anticipate. And now I guess, and I want to say we did a good job at raising our children because sometimes they don't want to leave the nest
Yes.
home because we've created loving, nurturing environments for them, and the idea of going out to be an adult can be daunting, as you state, just that beginning process and leaving the nest and don't know what college looks like. I wish there were more college preparatory programs or summer programs for all students.
Yeah.
But I think parents miss that because we didn't struggle that way when we were in high school, getting to that senior year. We were in a whole different mindset. Okay, get my car, get my job, get my
Yes.
and these kids now is different for a lot of different reasons, but they do have a fear, overwhelmingly the majority of them.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you, and I want to shed light on this as well, right? One of the things that I commonly hear with parents of my clients is that, oh, they don't have a reason to be depressed. And they're dismissive of their kids' behavior. And you brought up something very valid. Their experience is so different than ours. Like
Yes.
you say, we look forward to, oh, I can't wait to graduate. I'm getting my own place, my own like for us, the lure of adulthood was exciting for us. Like we couldn't wait to be adults. Right. And maybe because we had rules in place that we could do half the things we wanted to do, like, no, you got to come home at this time. We had so many rules in place. We could not wait to become an adult. But I think also they have the kids, like you said, the generational gap, they have a lot of flexibility. And we've allowed that flexibility. But because they have so much flexibility, like you just said, right? I don't want to leave. It's too comfortable here. Why would I want to go out and pay my own bills when it's so comfortable here? And so there is that fear because they don't know what it looks like. And so just helping them navigate, right? I remember my oldest son, I remember I've always, like when he was in the ninth grade, right? What I did was like in the ninth grade, what I would do is I was like, okay, in the ninth grade, I'm going to pay for 3/4, you pay for 1/3. 10th grade, it went from, okay, I'm going to pay half and you're going to pay half. And then 11. So every year my portion got smaller and his got bigger. But that was teaching him, right, the value of like, really like how to create a budget.
Yeah.
And also it was a slow wean into him being able to take care of his own things. Now my daughter, different story, so, but just instilling in them like, okay, this is how it's going to look to eventually you pay for it yourself. So it's not a huge thing when they do have to buy something on their own. It's not a huge thing for them because they're already used to buying their own things. And so you're right.
So good.
Yeah.
Audience, those of you who are just tuning in, we are having an awesome conversation. And our guest this evening is Dr. Shannon. And she's bringing her expertise to talk about healing from within.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to our viewers who are tuned in this evening. Hello to Pastor Ricardo Miller and Mr. Dan. Good evening and blessings to you. Hello, Miss Katie Friedel and Cynthia. Thank you for tuning in. And we have Miss Brady Robinson tuning in as well. We appreciate you and your participation in the chat. We love to get your feedback and how this conversation is having an impact or how you can relate. But please remember to make sure you share this live with a mother of a young man, of a teenage young boy, if he's in high school or even if he's about to graduate early years in college. Share, share, share.
Yes, yes, yes. Definitely important conversation to have, especially in this day and time. So yes, please share. Yes.
Exactly. So how can mothers create a safe environment where their sons feel seen, heard, and understood?
Okay, great questions from mom. And that's something I actually talk about in the book that I just released, Healing from Within, Healing the Wounds You Can't See. One of the things I address is having a safe space. Sometimes our kids just really want to vent without us helping or intervening. And so it's hard sometimes because as mom, you just want to fix.
Yep.
But the reality of it is we have to create a space where we could just listen without judgment. And that creates that space that they could talk without feeling judged, or even having a space where you're not correcting them. Don't get me wrong, like sometimes, teenagers, they're going to make mistakes and it's okay. And that's the thing we want them to know, that it's okay to make a mistake. It's really about teaching them how to recover from it.
Yes.
And giving them the tools to recover from that mistake. So one of the ways that we can definitely create a safe environment is definitely just listening without judging and without correcting, and just simply listen. But also, like I said, ask open-ended questions. What led you to this idea? Whose idea was this? Right? Because I had a client and it was hard to hear, but I was telling her, you're raising your son to be a follower.
Okay.
And she was like, what do you mean by that? Because he was constantly getting in trouble at school, being defiant. And I say, you're raising him to be a follower. And she was like, I can't believe, I teach him to do all these things. And I was like, yeah, you're teaching him to obey rules, but not teaching him to be a leader. And so I told her, I said, you know what, from now on, every time he gets in trouble at school, like, let's not make it formal, but I want you to just ask him, okay, who idea was this? And just listen and let him tell you, who came up with this idea? Not why did you do it, but who came up with the idea, and let them talk. And when you hear who came up with the idea, you're going to know if you're raising a leader or a follower. But when we listen as parents, we could tell a lot of things about the kids and about our sons. So I think as moms, just creating a safe space that we can listen and they can vent without us trying to fix it or us judging them or even us trying to correct them. And so the one thing you do want your sons to know that, hey, I can be honest here and still be accepted. So that's the one thing you want them to know.
And that makes them feel safe.
It does.
It makes them feel so safe. And Reese, Sister Cynthia said that can be hard to do. You're absolutely correct. I passed that test. I did good, but I ain't passed all the time. I didn't make a 100 in that area.
Yes.
I hear you saying, Dr. Shannon, is, don't be so quick to correct, ask questions. And I think in the asking of the questions, that allows that young man to take inventory on his role or accountability. Absolutely. On why he, what he did and why he did what he did. And so, or his involvement. And so, oh yes, asking questions. I mean, you can write a little book on that one, like a big, thick book, but
yes,
in itself is such a awesome tool for parents. And we have to hear that again and again because it doesn't come natural.
That is true.
You have to be so intentional to approach a situation where they've gotten in trouble, maybe suspended from school or truancy, anything, or just something in, out in civilization, civil life that has caused an issue for them.
Yeah.
Sit back and ask questions and not pounce or not preach.
Because that's what we want to do. We want to listen. We want to fix it. Yeah. But also, when you think about it, when you listen to them and you ask open-ended questions, right, you're also teaching them to be problem solvers.
Yeah.
We're going to ask them, okay, now how are you going to fix this? How are you going to correct this? Now you're getting their brain to work versus having yours to work. And so now they begin to problem solve and understand, like, hey, I created this mess and this is how I'm going to fix it. Like, one of the best things I think as parents, what you could do is when you have, especially teenagers, because it's hard. I'm going to tell you, when they're defiant and they're doing things that you ask them not to do, is sometimes it's hard to discipline, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things you can do is say, okay, you did this. There's consequences for it. Come up with your own consequence.
Oh.
Because that way it takes, as a parent, it takes the pressure off of you and allow them to come up. And typically they always come up with something that's more severe than what you would have did. Mm-hmm. And even if it's severe, I think the one thing that I teach my parents, whatever consequence you give, sticking with it.
That's good.
You got to stick with it. Even if they come back and say, you know what, for a month, I'm going to stay off of social media. And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, that's too harsh. It could be, but they came up with it. So you got to stick to it.
I love that. That is so good. I didn't come from the generation where I had a choice. The choice was either getting a whipping or you getting a restriction. What a choice.
But there's a lot of pressure on the parents, though. Like, okay, let me take some of this pressure off me.
But I had one parent. I came out all right, right?
Yes, yes.
My other parent would, God bless my mom, she would be a little lenient on the restriction, Yeah. She was allowing me to sneak and do something, but I better not don't get her in trouble because I didn't hold up my end of the bargain. Just things that we got to laugh about. But these are serious matters. If there's a consequence in place and you've identified that with your son, you have to hold your ground.
Yes.
You have to hold your ground, because in society as an adult, it may not be any lenience.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes. And so you got to realize you're the model. You're their model. So what am I modeling to my son?
Right.
If if I give a consequence and he's agreed to it, I have to stick to it as a parent as well. Because like you said, like the world is not going to give him any leniency.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm teaching him and modeling him that, hey, when you do something, that's going to be a reward attached or a consequence. So if
Right.
it's a reward, you're going to enjoy it. But if it's a consequence, you got to endure it. And so,
Good teaching. Good teaching, Dr. Shannon. That's awesome.
yeah, thank you.
What role does identity play in the healing process?
Mm. Well, with young men, identity is very important for a young man, right? Because you got to think about it this way, right? Um, if he believes that you have to be tough or silent or even emotionally disconnected in order to be strong, then of course he's going to always avoid healing because he feels that, hey, healing is a weakness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you got to look at it. But when he understands, right, there's strength and wisdom that comes from asking for help. And that's the thing we have to instill in them, right? There's a wisdom and there's a strength actually in asking for help. And even in one of the chapters, I talk about healing, with community. And so for young men, understanding is not just me. I have a community of people that's willing to help me and support me. And that is so good for them, to heal and help play a role in their identity so they can understand that I don't have to do this by myself.
That's
I
good.
have a support system in place that's going to help me. And also healing actually helps reshape their identity as well. Because now they're walking around as a healed young man versus a unhealed person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good. I want to dissect this question. We
Okay.
this. How does when a young man may not have that father figure
Okay.
in their lives or not in the household and it's just distant, and I know that plays a big role into them with their identity.
Yeah.
So how do young men help navigate or help mothers understand how to help their sons when it comes to that in perspective regarding their identity and the father figure is absent?
Well, it goes back to, like you just said, right? It goes back to the previous question, healing in community.
Okay.
Like this is so I'm a true believer. I'm a true believer, and I feel like we always have everything we need. It may not come in the package I want it to come in, but I will have it. So you're right. Like some young men, they don't have a father figure in the household. Got it, understood. But yet it doesn't mean there's not a father figure around that could still help and mentor that person. And that's where the community involvement comes in. That's where, it's important to let them um, be a part of any type of team, whether it's a robotics team. We don't always have to put our young men in sports, right? We can still put them in robotics. Even some young men, they like music. Like it's different for everybody, even a band. Like all of those are communities when you think about it, and they help with their identity. And it helps, once again, help them heal and recognize that they have a community of people. And I think the one thing that mothers can do with their young men is encourage them to participate in something outside of school, encourage them to be a part of something. I don't, even if it's theater, just doing something outside of school, outside of the home, where they could, it's a similar interest and they have a community. And so that mom is not just carrying that burden by herself. Like this young guy knows that, hey, I have a community of people that's willing to help and willing to see me through and, cheer me on throughout my journey. Because that's really what it's about. Like we heal when we're in community with each other. Right? We're not meant to be in isolation. Even though sometimes we want to isolate ourselves, but we're really meant to be in community with each other.
I agree. And I absolutely have seen through experience when we allow our children or encourage them to be a part of organizations outside of school
Yeah.
and even outside of church, it broadens their network
Yeah.
and it helps them become more well rounded.
Yeah.
Because we learn how to behave at school, we learn
Yes.
how to behave at church, and so we need another environment that we can thrive and be expressive
Yeah.
of ourselves and grow.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, book clubs. Nowadays, there's so many different clubs and so many different ways that our teenagers and young men could get involved.
Mhm.
And so just looking out, just, going on different pages and even Facebook, it'll tell you the different clubs they have now that you can get your teenager involved. I would suggest, doing your due diligence in researching these communities, especially if it's unfamiliar with you. We still need to research. We're not just going to trust everybody. So we're still going to do our due diligence as a parent in research, but also giving them options and say, hey, even letting the kids say, hey, choose 3 or 4 things that you may be interested in. I'll research them for you and we can kind of navigate from there. Because now you're empowering them to do something for themselves.
Love it.
Yes.
What are some practical steps both mothers and young men can take to begin the healing journey? I know
I
you
would,
mentioned these, but just elaborate one more time for our guests.
I would say this. So some practical steps, like I said before, one, just simply listening. That's the first step you can do. And we all have control over that, right? We all have the ability to listen. And two, just awareness, like teaching our young men about self-awareness. Like, what's happening with you right now? What's going on? What are you feeling? That's self-awareness. But also, once they have that self-awareness, teaching them to name what you're actually feeling. So one, listening, two, awareness, but then three, you have to name what you're feeling. You have to name it. That's part of the healing journey. Part of healing, right? Which I write about is naming the very thing that you're trying to heal from.
So good.
Mhm.
Audience, if you missed it, someone put it in the comment section, the 3 steps to
Mhm.
help to help mothers and sons begin that healing journey is to listen,
Yeah.
to have awareness,
Yes.
and for that young man to name what he is feeling.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Shannon, I have absolutely loved this conversation,
Mhm.
but I want to let everyone know that you do have a new book and
Yes.
give you that segue to discuss that. But tell us first, what is one of the key principles in your book or breakthrough insight that can help families start healing immediately?
Okay. Perfect segue, right? Because I just talked about acknowledging. And so, one of the most important principles that we could take away from this is that you can't heal without acknowledging the thing that you need to heal from. And so, I make that so clear and plain in the book. You have to name the thing that you're trying to heal from. So many times we have families that function in dysfunction and they function in unspoken pain, and that becomes normal. And so, what I challenge my clients to, to look at it from a perspective of everyone's normal is different, but we can acknowledge that your normal is dysfunctional.
Yep.
And once we can acknowledge my norm growing up in this family is dysfunctional, that's the awareness that I talked about. But then also, it becomes now you know what you need to heal from, right? And so the moment, right, you begin, for young men, the moment parents create that safe space is the moment it becomes real and they begin to talk to you about the very thing they're healing from. And so one of the things, if anyone what I want people to walk away from this conversation with tonight is that healing doesn't just start the moment you acknowledge it, or it doesn't start when everything around you changes. It actually starts when you decide to look within, right? It's called healing from within for a reason, because now is the time for us to stop looking at external things outside of us to heal. Everything we need is within us. For our young men, for our moms and our families, at the end of the day, the work starts when we start looking at us and doing a self inventory and reflecting and thinking about, what can I do different? What can I do for myself to heal? So if you take away nothing else, right? Healing starts within, is really healing from within is really just about doing the internal work. So even my book, like I said, Healing from Within, Healing the Wounds You Can't See, it's available. You can DM me at hopewithin.com, or even, it's available on Amazon as well, and all book platforms that you can possibly find.
Well, thank you for that. I have to get a copy of your book. I know it can be very helpful in my life, and
Yeah.
mothers and young men alike. So make sure that you look for that and get that in your inventory. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Shannon, it has been a pleasure having this conversation, picking your brain, asking you questions in your area of expertise. Thank you for joining us again on Blueprint for Success. We are so very grateful to have you here this evening.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. Once again, like I said, if anyone is interested in a copy of the book, Healing from Within, they can always DM me on this platform, or you can always just reach out to me at hopewithin.com, or info@hopewithin.com. So everything is going to be Hope Within Counseling across the board. And so feel free to reach out. I'd be more than happy to mail you a signed copy, because it's not just a book, right? It's a tool, right? It's a guide to help you pause, to reflect, and also to just begin to do the real work it takes to heal. So, it's for anyone that's ready. And the thing about, you got to remember that, we always waiting for the perfect time to start, but there's never going to be a perfect time, right? So this book meets you where you are, wherever you are in your healing journey, whether it's at the end, the middle, or just getting through it, it meets you where you are. And so, like I said, it's not just a book, but it's a gentle guide and a companion to help you heal and start talking about those unspoken wounds. So thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I know you enjoyed this segment tonight. And if you tuned in late, make sure you go back and watch it on demand. And again, please like this live, give it some hearts. If you are on YouTube, give it a thumbs up and make sure you share with some loved ones. Thank you all for tuning in to the Blueprint for Success broadcast here on Build Your Best Life. Each and every one of you have a great and wonderful night.